Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim here with me. You know, this is your weekly South African podcast. We talk all things South African cricket, where the domestic season is about to start, which means the SA20 is done. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. We've got an interesting guest for you. But remember, you can follow us on Full Quota Pod on X. You can subscribe to the One World Sports Radio YouTube channel. Got all the different sporting podcasts on there. It's a platform that we're trying to build out, so please do support us. Most importantly, we're also live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for those audio people who are like myself, who love listening to the sound of my voice and Tim's voice while driving. So that's always a great thing. So please do check us out there as well. The SA20 is over. We have, I hope it's not a dynasty, but we've got the inclinations of a dynasty there, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thankfully, I did not stay up to watch the Taylor Swift Kelsey extravaganza.
Why are you guys hating on them? Leave them be. Let the Chiefs win. Okay, we did win.
Oh, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them. But no, I'm always gonna support the underdog. Always gonna support the underdog.
The 49ers have won the Super Bowl more times than the Chiefs.
Yes, so, they have, but not for like 30 years.
Yeah,
not for like for flipping ages. No, but look, I'm fine, dude. I'm fine. I don't care who wins the NFL. Tampa were not there, so I don't care.
Cool. Yeah, no, I was happy. I was, when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, I was on the plane. And so I couldn't scream as loud as I could because I was flying to Cape Town. So, yeah, that was really, really cool. But we'll talk about this a little bit. But this week in South African cricket, just to talk about it, Tim, SA under 19, Gwena Mapaka just keeps his star shining. What a way for him to end the tournament, right? 3 5-wicket hauls, player of the tournament. Really, really great performance from him, right?
Outstanding. If you are watching the podcast, load shedding kicked in, so apologies for that. Yeah, look, he's streets ahead. We said it a couple of weeks ago. He's streets ahead of everybody else in the tournament. It was only right that he got play at the tournament. He's going to play for the Proteas very, very soon. Whether it's 6 months, a year, whatever, 2 years, he's going to be playing for South Africa. There's absolutely no doubt. And his talents were on show for the tournament. He can be hugely proud of his performance as a whole.
Yeah. And obviously with the end of SA20, him and probably even Luandre Pretorius and Steve Stolk were probably guys who were missing out of the SA20. I'd have loved to see Gwena, Luandre and Steve play in the SA20. But it was interesting because Steve this weekend, after playing in the Under-19 World Cup, ended up playing his 100th game for, I think it's Menlo Park in Pretoria. So he's coming back for another World Cup cycle. So that's going to be quite interesting. But that's not what we're going to be doing today. Tim, we're going to be talking SA20 with Nikhil Uttamchandani, who was a commentator on the recent SA20. He's commentated on a lot of cricket around the world. Really a great commentator. Also coming out of the Caribbean, which is really great because we have a massive contingent of players from the West Indies. So I think it's fitting for us to bring him on. And then to talk about what happened this weekend, whether it's a dynasty, whether Aiden Markram has got some sort of a hold on that trophy. So yeah, let's bring him on and let's have a chat. Hi Nikhil, how are you doing?
How are you doing, guys? All is well. Really great to be on the Full Quota podcast, man.
Sure, thank you very much, Nikhil. Yeah, this weekend we saw something amazing in SA20, but I wouldn't be remiss not to speak about the West Indies, to have someone from the region, especially with the World Cup coming up. How obviously they've had a lot of success, and I think at the time they were having success here in South Africa. But do you know how did the region receive that win, that Test match win a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was massive, to be honest, guys. I really hope it can be sort of a win that will re-inspire a generation in terms of our red ball cricket, because it's been on the decline for the last couple of years. And you look at not only Shamar Joseph, but some of the other guys who did well in that Test team, Kevin Hodge, Justin Graves, Joshua Da Silva. They're all products of our first-class setup, which has been criticised for many years. So it is good to see that you've got players who still are finding a niche playing red ball cricket. And I mean, to be an Australia team like that, where, I mean, the Gabba is sort of a fortress for them, but also they played their strongest team. And you've got 7 uncapped players in the 11. It was just unbelievable, to be honest. I was in South Africa, but I watched every single ball. I couldn't actually believe what I was witnessing. It was really cool. And I think probably the most special moment for me as a West Indian cricket fan.
That's amazing. Truly amazing.
It was, I mean, for me as a neutral, it was fantastic to see. I don't think it was really. It couldn't have been predicted. Let's put it that way. It couldn't have been predicted. Just going forward, if we can, towards the SA20. What were your initial thoughts going into the tournament? Did you see season 1? Did you have any idea of what to expect coming here? The sort of cricket that was going to be played, and were you surprised on anything once you arrived here and you actually saw the cricket involved?
Yeah, Tim, I think last year I did watch a lot of it, to be honest, so I knew the crowds were special. But what I would tell anyone who has not been to the SA20 in person, the TV and images and social media will never paint an actual picture of what it's like in that stadium. I think that was the most surprising thing to me, to see the crowds. And listen, I'm from the Caribbean, where we always talk about party, we always talk about carnival of cricket, and we celebrate our cricket. But when it comes to South Africans, you guys do it on a different level, man. Honestly, I was blown away. I was mesmerized to see the crowds that came to these games. I'm talking about Monday, Tuesday nights, where you think people have work and weekdays and nobody's really interested. Everyone is at the cricket. And I've met so many people who are not really cricket fans, and still sort of came to the game just for the vibe. And that, I think, was one of the big messagings from the SA20 to us. Like, we want to attract younger fans. We want to attract people who necessarily are not cricket lovers, but also just want to have a good time. And I think that, to me, was the most surprising thing. When it comes to the cricket, obviously South Africa is always in a high standard. But I think I really saw firsthand how difficult it is to come to South Africa and score runs and get wickets and do well. So if you do that, I think it really holds you in a quite high standard as a player.
Yes, no, that's something that I think we can praise the SA20 team, is that they've made strides in trying to get the wider non-cricket watching community or going community, right? If you think about the eliminator and the second qualifier in Johannesburg, the first night was a family night, the second night was a night for the youngsters or the party goers. It was a weird type of situation, but it made it work. The music, the DJ, everything, and it is a show. And being there in person is quite that. Coming into obviously the tournament and knowing that there were West Indian players coming in, because we always thought, and we always so after the first one last year, we thought maybe it's number 3 T20 league in the world. Would you be able to rank this league amongst the ones in the world? I know obviously IPL stands alone, I assume, but where does it stand with you in terms of the overall product and the quality of cricket?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I heard AB de Villiers say that this is the second best league in the world. I hold a PSL in quite high standard as well, but I have not actually been there. So I can't really talk on that. But I think IPL is one, and I think this is very close, to be honest. And because of this crowd factor, I could see the SA20, really blowing up in a couple of years' time. As they continue to build, it continues to get bigger and bigger. and you look at the caliber of player, I think that's what is sort of separates them from the other leagues. The local players are superstars. So it gets crowds, it gets people around the world watching them, and then you've got some good overseas as well joining them. So I think it's right up there, guys, honestly. I haven't really been to many others just to rank them, but I think IPL is, as we all know, is the pinnacle, and this is very close.
Do you have a favorite ground in South Africa?
Oh, man, many, man. But I think Paarl for me, Paarl was really unbelievable. Like, when I got there the first time, I was like, okay, this is cool and stuff. When the sun set, I was like, wow. And I think the people in Paarl too, very passionate about their cricket. But look, I had a really good time at all the grounds. St. George's Park, that band, the atmosphere, and also the commentary box as well, because many people may not know, but the commentary box, you guys probably know, the way it's situated is like sort of over the field. So you actually feel like you're extremely close to the action. And that for me is a massive thing. So I just, even off commentary, would just sit there and just watch, because it was just, you feel so close. I think you guys have such a thing with the grounds where each one is so unique. It really tests you as a player and as a team. But I think if you are a fan traveling around to different places in South Africa, you would gain something from each place because they're so unique. And one has wind, one has, high altitude. The other one may have a fast surface. The other one may be spin friendly. So I think, that was really cool to see how teams sort of adapted and adjusted. And I think the team that adapted best won the tournament in the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. What's interesting what you say about crowds, because we had we tried this. We tried this prior to SA20, and for various reasons it didn't work. But the one place where it did work was Paarl. Paarl crowd turned up in their droves.
Yes.
So it's not surprising that they've turned up. What I would say, growing up, it was not a very pretty place to go. It still had it so exposed that it was really, really tough to go and watch cricket. So the work they've put in there is a testament to them. That's a really good thing. When you came here and you were looking at the players and things, are there any South African players that surprised you or unknown to you that really stood up for you and thought, you know what, that boy's got a bright future ahead of him?
Yeah, I think there's a few, to be honest. I watched Bartman last year in limited opportunity, but when I look at him this year and sort of the body of work, I know he was always quite attacking. Watching him last year, but they had Magala, so he would get limited opportunities. I know he took 12 wickets. A lot of people were like, why are you guys calling him a star? Why are you saying that this is his first season or this is his first real stardom? Because I know he's done well domestically as well. I think when they had the T20 comp last year or a year before, he was in the top 3 wicket takers. So domestically. So I know he's always been there. But the execution at the back end of the innings, each and every single game he played, and people forget that he was in and out of the team. It's not easy to just come in and go out and still do well. But the Yorkers, the knuckleball, I think, and listen, South Africa yesterday, I was sitting down thinking about it. The amount of depth you have in your fast bowling ranks, Berger, Kutsia, Rabada, Norkia, the list goes on and on. This guy, to me, is different to all of them because of what he does at the back end of the inning. So to the selectors, good luck. But he was one that really stood out to me. In terms of some other talent, there's a lot, to be honest. Like, I remember doing a lot of research coming into it, trying to find out guys' stories and stuff like that. It was really cool for me to find out about Ronan Herman, that he's still going to university, or that Berger has a psychology degree where he's done it at Fitz. So I think those guys, I think Mitch Van Buren was one that really stood out to me. I didn't really know much about him before the tournament. But doing my research, I saw he was in sort of the South African emerging side. And then he didn't really have the most prolific tournament, but he scored 70 in Centurion in a game where they were really in some trouble. Him and David Miller stuck it out, and then he really went big towards the back end. And that to me was like, wow, this is a mature innings for a 25-year-old to play. So he was a special talent, and I think there's so many, man. There's a lot to come throughout the teams.
Yes, and to give context, I think Bartman is an interesting one because this season domestically didn't bowl that well. Well, obviously we didn't have a T20, but in the 1 Day Cup and in the 4 Day series he was, and the question was, how is he going to come into the tournament? And because the other thing is that, and we forget, is Sisanda Magala at the start of last year was the best death bowler in the country. We have this thing in South Africa. Our fast bowlers don't like bowling Yorkers. It's the weirdest thing ever. But Sisanda always did that, right? And obviously with him being injured, it kind of made sense that a guy like Othniel, but you could see that there was a massive difference in SA20 and actually pretty much months before. But obviously I'll put that down to Dale Steyn, because I think Dale has this weird way of, I think he's going to be a great coach, great fast bowling coach. And you could see that coming through. And Mitch van Buren is up there with me in Johannesburg. I'm actually in Cape Town right now. He's been one of the most dominant club cricketers in the scene. In this format, in the T20 format, he actually is quite a lethal player, and I was really happy that he stepped up. And I love that you named Ronan Hadman and all of those guys. But let's talk about the guys that actually did do well. Obviously, Othniel Botman is one of them, but I want to call him the Big Show, but Glenn Maxwell has that name. But my word, Heinrich Klaasen is a draw card on his own. If you're just a general cricket fan, just go watch the Durban Super Giants wherever they go. But how was he up close and personal with you, and obviously watching him in those games? Because Durban Super Giants had a weird strategy of just bringing him down the order whenever they were losing wickets early on, and a lot of the fans kept on saying, no, put him up there, give him a lot more balls. And obviously in the second qualifier, he scored 74 of 30 balls, and he was the reason why they made it back into the final. But how did you experience the show that is Heinrich Klaasen?
Well, I think just to show how good he is, the fact that he finished with the second most runs, you look at the top five, every one of the other ones are openers. This guy is facing half the balls and still able to score as many runs. But I thought about it as well, because last season, I remember he scored 100. He batted at 3. So I thought about, you send him up the order, let your best batter face the most deliveries. But they had something that worked for them. But what I'll say on him, the guy is not a human being. Honestly, he is not a human being. I said it on commentary. There's no way that he's a human. Because to play it that way, that high risk, aggressive, but that consistently, I can't believe it. And I look at some bowlers, like, for example, I spoke to Berger after the game in Joburg, and he's like, he doesn't know what to do. A lot of times they execute their plans. I've seen it countless times. Bowlers are executing exactly what they want. You've got a bigger side of the ground, you set the field there, you force him to hit it, he still hits it for 6. I don't get how he does it so easily, but I've watched him, and I give him some credit as well, because he said something in a post-match presentation to Pommy and Bangwa, and he said, I've been humbled by mother cricket before, so I know not to take it for granted. And every single game that I worked, and I've heard from others as well, this guy comes, he's the first person out on the field, hits his balls, gets in a rhythm, goes around the ground, talks to locals, tries to acclimatize. Every single game. He doesn't need to necessarily do that. It's class, and he knows every ground. He could easily just rock up, be like, I'm good, I don't need to warm up. This guy sticks to his processes and executes every single time. To get that level of consistency, I've never really seen anything like this. And I spoke to AB about it, and AB says he's right up there with probably the best finisher in the game that he's ever seen. And this is AB de Villiers we're talking about. So I think that's just a testament to how dominant this guy is. But consistency is key. To be that dominant and that consistent, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was in a press conference with Vian Mulder and Nandre Berger on Thursday night after the qualifier. Nandre didn't know what to do. His answer was, you bowl anywhere to this guy, he's got an answer for you. Vian kept on saying, well, if I'm batting with this guy, I just need to make sure I'm in. And it was fascinating to see the contrast, and the one thing I loved about Heinrich is that those who batted around him also enjoyed it, right? And the one thing I kind of felt sorry about Durban Super Giants, which will probably lead to my next question, is that if Nicholas Pooran actually had stayed for the rest of the tournament, they probably would have won it, because that little dovetailing between him and Pooran and those partnerships that they had were just really great. And obviously, speaking of Pooran, the West Indian players were here. Largely all were sitting in the Durban Super Giants. Obviously, we had Romario Shepherd and Obed McCoy. But were there things that were the players that you when you came into a tournament, did you have expectations for some of the key players like McCoy, Puran, maybe a Kyle Mayers, especially obviously looking towards the World Cup coming up this year?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought Mayers would have actually played some more because last year he was actually quite good for them with the ball in hand. Took wickets with the new ball, was very economical. They went out 4 runs and over, bowled a lot in the power play. So I was quite interested to see that they didn't really give him. He only played 1 game before he went to Australia, so that was quite surprising. But in terms of expectation, I always knew it'd be a massive tournament for Obed McCoy because if you're around the West Indies setup, you'll know that he's been away from the international side for a couple of, well, you could say a year now. He's been dealing with injury, and we don't really have many series. I think 1 series in May where South Africa might be coming to the Caribbean before that World Cup. So it's a real great opportunity for McCoy to use that tournament, to use the PSL, the IPL, to try to make a case for selection. And we need that variation. We need a left-arm seamer. We need someone that can bowl at the back end. I thought he started well. Towards the back end, it was kind of tough. He went for runs, was quite expensive in that game with Ngidi. But I think that game at Centurion where he executed, I think that he defended 12 off the last over was good. Yes. And then some of the other guys, Shepherd does well in South African conditions, especially with bat in hand. So it was really great to see him. I think probably would have liked to be a little bit less expensive. But Fabian Allen as well, a few good knocks, but not getting that level of consistency that he would have probably want. But I think all in all, man, for all those West Indian guys, it is such good experience, not only to rub shoulders with legends in the dressing room and current players, but also to get the experience in tough conditions. It is not easy to come to South Africa as an overseas player and do well. We all saw it. Only the best of the best succeed in that place.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
That's a,
very good to hear.
That's very good point. Very good point. And I when we did our preview, we kind of said that Paul might do something purely on the bowling department, which we included McCoy. But you're right; they did tend to drift away towards the end. I think largely due to the fact that their batsmen failed, not necessarily that the fact that their bowlers didn't bowl well. I think they did. Moving to another South African player. Oh God, so much has been said about this boy. So much criticism, and then you get the supporters, and he really splits opinion. He's played Test cricket. Now there was a lot. I think there was a lot of pressure on him. Signed for one of the star teams, if you like, by Cape Town. So I think that there was the added pressure. But from our point of view, he absolutely delivered. So he knocked that door down. Did you see much of Rickleton throughout the tournament on a personal level? What did you think? What did you think of his performance?
Yeah, man. I think to have 450 plus scores in the first 4 games, it was kind of like, whoa, like who's this guy? But obviously, I've seen him because he played against West Indies in the 1 days. Been following him for a bit. But last year, a lot of teams would just bowl wide to him and they would get him out because he's trying to hit leg side all the time. This year, he came and the guy just destroyed bowling attacks, man. Honestly, like even when they went wide to that plan, he was still able to hit them. So obviously he's refined his game, but credit to him as well because last year I read that he was playing with an injury. So after the tournament, had surgery and has been able to come back a lot stronger. And I don't know, I think he scored over 500 runs. It sort of merits a place in the South African T20 team. I don't know how you get him in with the cut there, with Reza Hendricks, with Bretsky, who's also extremely impressive. That batting lineup is... Listen, every single World Cup, every world event, you look at South Africa's team, you say, how do these guys not win a tournament? But this year, I think they're a special team. Like they're right up there with the favorite for me. Maybe I'm biased because I saw them up close in the SA20, but they are serious. And I think he definitely deserves a place, even if it's not in the 11, maybe in the squad. But 530 runs is not an easy feat in less games than everyone else because his team didn't qualify.
Yeah, look, there'll be a riot if he's left behind in South Africa. It'd be a problem, right? And to the point where I even thought Reza Hendricks was batting himself out of the World Cup. It kind of feels like Reza was returning to his old self, the self that we know a little bit more circumspect. He tried to be aggressive. It didn't work out, and then he goes into his shell, and it was kind of disappointed. But were there any players that you were disappointed with in terms of a performance perspective that you thought they could have done a little bit more?
I'm a massive Lungi and Gidi fan. I thought the way he started the tournament, it was kind of like, damn, this guy needs to play for South Africa, because the slower delivery, the outswinger, he has stuff that the others don't already have. I was kind of disappointed. And look, he's battling injury. It's never easy. I would never say it's easy to bowl at the back end of T20 games at some of these venues in Joburg where the ball is flying. It is so difficult. But I wanted him, a piece of me desperately wanted, I was rooting for him to finish a bit better in some of those games where he wasn't really able to execute. Went for, I think, over 20 runs in a couple overs. He bowled at the last 5 in that phase. So I really wanted him to sort of nail that so that he would get into that South African 11 as someone who can bowl specifically at the back end. I'm not sure if he was able to establish that reputation looking back on the tournament. So not disappointed, but I would say more wish he could have, executed, because now I don't know if they will pick him. I still think he's so much quality, and in West Indies conditions, with that extra bounce, with that off cutter, I think he could be a real handful. And then I think, it's hard for me to pick disappointments, man, because I think I know how difficult that league is. And look, I just expect everyone, I just know how tough it is for bowlers when you bowl into guys like Klassen and stuff. So it's really hard to sort of nitpick and criticize. But Lungisani and Gidi, I would have loved to see him finish well. I think and I had a stat as well, when he did well, they won games comfortably. And when he went over 10 and over, they lost every game. So he was such an integral part. And of course, battling injury is never easy.
Yeah, look, he's I think he hit the nail on the head. When he's on, he's unbeatable. He really is. But when he's off, it does affect it does affect not just the Paul Royals, but it's actually affected the Proteas.
Because Tim, if you look at it, Tim, the way the Paul Royals started, they started like a house on fire, right? And they led the log for the first week and a half. They had won, I think it was 4 out of the first 5 games. They looked really good, and then they proceeded to lose the next 5. And for me, that's the one team for me where I felt they will be looking at this tournament as a massive missed opportunity, because had they just held on, but obviously, as you both mentioned, some of the batting failed, and also Ngidi's bowling and maybe even Obi McCoy towards the back end, they kind of suffered. And it's a team like that kind of I felt sorry for, because you've got this prodigy in Gwena Mapaka who they're actually paying money for, who, if he came in while those guys were tiring, could have been something different, because Gwena also adds something else. And I'm not sure if you've seen him, Nikhil, but for me, that was the thing that disappointed me the most about this Paul season was this kid could have done something. And also the opener, Luandre Petores, who's a rookie, he could have done something else. But we'll only find out next year, it seems.
Going into season 3, if you were to... No, there's obviously been a massive improvement at season 1 for the reasons we explained. Is there anything that we could do to improve it, do you think? I'm just thinking here, perhaps more double headers. That's the only thing I can think of.
Tim wants the tournament to end quickly, Nikhil, so he's a fan.
Well, to be honest, Tim, I'm actually on the other side of things. I absolutely love, and I mean, I'm very cricket purist. I'm not like other cricket fans who like breaks and stuff. I absolutely adore every single day you have a game to watch. I love that. There's nothing more I love. I hate when there's a T20 tournament and there's days of no action. So I actually love that format. And obviously for me as well, it allows me to get to a few more games because you don't have as many. I think logistically as well, it helps them plan better because you can easily do work in Pearl and then you fly to Johannesburg the next day and then you have the game the day after. So I think logistically, that's probably why. Nah, to be honest, Tim, I can't find any improvements, man. Even something I missed saying earlier, you drive around South Africa, gas stations, billboards, malls, you're seeing the SA20 everywhere, the imaging, the branding. I think that's an underrated thing. And you guys mentioned the previous domestic tournaments not doing as well. The marketing at this competition, I've never seen it anywhere else in the world. The IPL is massive, but I don't even think they are in as many places. I mean, everywhere, gas stations, cinemas, I couldn't believe it. You're just seeing welcome to the incredible Faf, Markram, everywhere you go. It's just so well thought out, strategic, and I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, no, it does, and it's an
does.
insane marketing juggernaut that they've got over there, and I think a lot of other leagues in other sports in South Africa can take a leaf out of it. I've got a few more questions, Nikhil. When you look at the Sunrisers Eastern Cape, because I think every time we look at them, even last year, one of the key things we loved was that they were largely homegrown. All their marquee stars were young South African players: Marco Jansen, Aiden Markram, Jordan Herman, and the like. What helped them win it a second time? Because I look at DSG and I sat there on Saturday thinking, but DSG have this bad man in Heinrich Klaassen. And it seems to me that it kind of feels like, as you said earlier, the team that adapted the best made it through, but it's the two teams who played on the probably the toughest pitches in South Africa, right? In Gqeberha and in Durban, that made it to the final. But is there something special there at Sunrisers that you've seen?
Yeah, I think two things that stood out for me. Their local core. You look at the other teams, the local players that they have. Herman, as you mentioned, Stubbs, Jansen, but I'll look past the three of them. I'll go like Bartman as well. Obviously, Captain Markram is a huge one. Their locals, to me, is by far the best in the tournament, but also the overseas additions that they made. And this is where Eddie Burrell needs some credit, because many people don't know he is a manager at the Hampshire cricket setup. He has seen the English talent, and it's extremely shrewd signings. Daniel Worrell, and when I saw him coming into the tournament, I was kind of like not sure. I know he does well in England, but these are very different conditions. But the guy gets the ball to nip around, hits a very good length consistently. He was outstanding. But Tom Abel, oh man, that was a serious signing. The guy in some of the toughest conditions where Markram, Stubbs, and those guys were not coming off, this guy would just grind you out. Singles, twos, just grind, and get all of a sudden he's striking at 150. He was so special for me to watch, just the way he went about scoring runs in this tournament. So I think those two things, and also talking to some of the local South Africans and some of the former players that I worked with, a big thing for them was, you look at that Sunrisers team, they have coastal batters, guys who can adapt, who play on those tough pitches. When you look at Klaassen, the Cot, and playing for the Titans, obviously they don't get as much. Well, I mean, they played so much cricket, but I think it does make a difference, because the teams with a lot of coastal players who could sort of adapt between the two did better than the teams with a lot of the high veld players who are used to the altitude, used to the ball flying. And it was a tough adjustment. Some of the pitches wasn't always the easiest, especially to start on. So I think that's where Sunrise, as you mentioned, having the local contingent. And you look at that core, Jansen, Stubbs, Herman, they're all 23 years old and younger. I think this team is going to be around for a long time because of how smart they were in their acquisitions. And that guy Stubbs, man, he is serious, man. Honestly, serious.
Yeah, he's now becoming an all-format player, which is kind of exciting for us, because we get to see a different side of him. And I think in this T20, in the SA20, we saw the different side of Tristan Stubbs, not only just the power, but necessarily the finesse, the guile, the ability to be able to play all at different paces. Your experience in the comms box with all those legends inside there, how did you find your time with the Pommies, the Pollies, the guys in that box?
Yeah, massive learning for me. A really phenomenal experience. If you told 12, 13-year-old me 5-6 years ago that I would commentate with AB de Villiers, I would say never in life. He's someone that I really idolized on TV, short, broad. I watched a lot of his test cricket the last 10 years. And it was just cool, man, to have relationships with these guys, to talk to them about their careers, to learn about the game, learn about this tough situations, what it requires to do well in this tough sport. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me. But they're such good guys, and they're always willing to sort of pay it forward and teach the younger generation. I remember when the first day I walked in PE into the commentary box, it was like Mark Nicholas, Ravi Shastri, AB, Kevin Peterson. I remember I walked in and I was like, there's no way I should be here. Like, I don't fit in with these guys, you know? When you look at how many test wickets they have, test runs, international matches. But to be fair to them, they really accepted me. I felt really welcomed and at home. And it was just cool to pick their minds, man. Even on commentary, a lot of times I would just ask because they have the knowledge, you know? what would you do in this situation? Guys like Werner Verlander and Ashwell and like South African legends who know local players, know local conditions so well. I think it made a huge difference having them. And yeah, all in all, for me, it was, I keep telling people it was a life-changing experience, not only for South Africa and how unbelievably beautiful it is, but just to work alongside those people and to see cricket from a different lens. I think it's changed me forever, yeah, for sure.
That's amazing. That's really, really awesome. Is there an innings of you? What was your innings of the tournament?
Class in at Joburg. Because I was on commentary for a lot of it, I did the last 5 overs in that innings. And if you go back and you listen to me, I started with, powerful, like really good shot and stuff. After a few of the sixes, I had no words for this guy. So I literally said, he's not human. I literally said, this guy is not human being on commentary. Yeah. Because I think it was just so unbelievable what he was doing, knowing what he was like coming into with the body of work and stuff. And there were many better innings than that, but that for me really stood out. Under pressure, they didn't end up winning, but it just the way he just destroyed bowling attacks, man. He is a serious player, and I think really excited to see him come to the Caribbean for the World Cup later this year. He's going to be a juggernaut, man, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's South African betting lineup's going to cause us a lot of headaches because this, I don't know, I might even leave Reza at home the way things are going.
Wow.
No, but that's essentially what it is, because like yourselves, we only have 3 T20s left, and by the time we pick a side to go play the West Indies, those guys are just going to move on to America. So effectively, you have to pick a team that's there. Nikhil, what's the one thing you'll take, or you think the CPL should take from the SA20?
I think marketing makes a huge difference, and the CPL do a really good job. I think where the CPL, I could relate to CPL and the SA20 is atmosphere. We also like to celebrate our cricket. We call it the biggest party in sport because it is a party. You go to grounds in the Caribbean, you enjoy yourself thoroughly. I think if they had a bit of the marketing the SA20 had, and it's very different because obviously the funding for that will be very different and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily like to compare because I think they're both two phenomenons in their own right. But if you can get that level, just seeing it firsthand, seeing how much it worked, if you get those, and it needs buy-in from all the countries, the franchises, which SA20 have. And I know the CPL are pushing the marketing side hard, but they need the buy-in from the franchises. If you get the CPL all over the place, gas stations, thing, it's always in people's line of sight. I think it makes a huge difference. That for me, just to not only see that, but then see the culmination when you have 20,000 people packed into a stadium. That's where I think it could really take from the SA20 and sort of go to the next level. But I think it's on the way, man. CPL is a great comp, and it's great that we have some South Africans coming down as well to grace it. Imran Tahir is well loved, really well loved in the Caribbean.
45.
He led Guyana to their first championship ever. And I'll also say one hot take before I leave. If I was South African selector, I'm picking Imran Tahir in my World Cup squad. Just because I know what this guy does in the Caribbean. He averages 17 with 90 wickets in the CPL.
I tweeted it.
For sure.
I tweeted it. He's 45. I'd still take him. If he can still run, he can bowl a ball. He is just sensational.
Look at the catches he took. He took outstanding catches.
Yeah, I'm picking him up.
Yeah. No, look. Here's an interesting hot take. Who will be, because we're going to mega auction, right? So I'm assuming, let's take out Hanno Klaas. Who is going to be the player that you think will go for the most amount of money in the next mega auction?
So tell me, is it like, will they only be able to retain like 5 maybe from each team? Or how is it going to...
Yes. Yeah, they'll be able to retain like 5, but I'm looking for that next group of players. So that Rickleton group, the Bartman group, those guys who won't necessarily retain now. I'm assuming Hanuk will always be retained. Like, you'd be stupid not to.
I think so. If I'm looking at 3 or 4 guys who will be retained, obviously I would say like Stubbs or Janssen. I could see Janssen absolutely breaking the bank because of what this guy offers you with the bowling, but the power hitting. You saw one game they set him in at 4 to take down the spin, and he just nailed them. So obviously I would say them, but I'm pretty sure Markram, Stubbs, Janssen will be retained, no doubt. Probably Bartman as well. I think because Joburg have Kutsia, they've got Faf, they've got a few really good local guys as well. And I'm sure he will get retained. But if for some reason they can't find a way to keep Nandre Berger, I could see him absolutely tearing down the bank for teams. Just how quality that guy is. Got the ball to swing at pace, but he is just a really fearless and aggressive type guy. And I mean, very nice off the field, but I love as soon as he steps onto that field, it is crazy. I could see him easily, because he's young as well, so I could see people being like, no, we can build around this guy for the next 5 years. Let's get him. So just because of that, I would say maybe him. But again, it would depend on if teams can keep 3 guys, can they keep 5 guys? Because then you could easily look at guys like Reza Hendricks, who could get and change of environment and bam, do well. And there's so many batters, man. Honestly, there's a lot of batters who I think are really special. And no one really saw Rickleton. Someone like Brevis, for example, and I'm sure MI will keep him because of how young he is, because of the fact that he plays for them in the IPL. But he's easily the type of guy who it could be a toss-up between keeping Rabada, between keeping some of the local guys, and I'm sure Brevis will be retained. But if for some reason he wasn't, I could easily see a team really going hard at him, new environment, maybe Joburg or somewhere like Pretoria, and then bam, just, tearing it up. So yeah, it's going to be fun, man. Honestly, I really hope I'm involved next year. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Look, some of those older teams need to bring in a few more youngsters. We're looking at you, the Pretoria Capitals, JSK. And some teams need a little bit of experience. That's you, MI Cape Town. But Nikhil, thank you very much for joining us. We do look forward to having you and listening to your voice on our screens, be it the World Cup or anywhere else there is a cricket on, and also back here in South Africa next year for SA20 version 3. I hope Sunrisers don't start a dynasty, because we can't be coming to finals and watching this team tear people apart again. But Nikhil, thank you very much, my man.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, guys. I also want to say before I go that you guys are doing some great work. People won't know this, but when I got the nod that I was going to South African T20, this podcast was the first one I listened to. Y'all's recap from last season after the final, after Sunrisers had won. I was trying to get a perspective as to how cricket is done there, and I think you guys really niche when it comes to South African cricket and going just beyond what we see on TV. So keep it up. Full quota definitely is something that I listen to, and it was a massive help for me trying to gain insight on players and into the cricket. So yeah, keep going, guys, man. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks
That means a lot to us, Nikhil. Thank you.
Really
awesome.
does.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Sure.
Cheers, Nikhil.
Tim, that was amazing. Really, really great recap. Yeah. Look, the only one question I want to ask you for this is Vian Mulder. Where do you sit with Vian? Are you bringing him back into the Proteas team?
I'm bringing him back. I'm bringing him back. I'm bringing out the red carpet. I'm giving him chocolates. And I'm bringing out the roses. I'm bringing out the champagne. I'm bringing out the beer. I'm bringing it all out. Whatever he wants, I'm bringing it out.
Oh, my word.
All of it. A whole lot.
Look, there's a scenario where you have your top 6, and then Vian and Marco are 7 and 8. Still quality bowling. And you can still have 5 good bowlers and actually 8 good batting options. And I think with Wayne Parnell's form not going the way we wanted to go, I think that could be quite an interesting situation for us. And maybe the key that unlocks everything, because Vian I was in the press conference with him after that qualifier when he batted with Heinrich for that, when he scored that 70 off 30, and he was just sitting there going, look, he can't necessarily pinpoint this thing, but obviously he just likes batting under pressure in tough situations with the teams. And remember, we've been speaking to a lot of players, and they speak about role clarification and all that stuff. And I think his role has always been, you are just going to go in there and kind of hold off the attack. And he's done really well. 50s. I think it's 350s, and the team was like in dire straits at times. So he's the one player that I'd love to see back again. I know we've had like we've this is like Vian us trying Vian for like the 5th time. Hopefully now this is the one time that works.
Yeah, look, it might even do go even further for him. He might go, you know what? I need a new environment. The Durban environment, okay, it's not going to be, it's not Imran Khan, but the point I'm making is that environment at Durban Supergiants is what I want. For whatever reason, maybe what he's having at the Lions isn't what he wants.
Yeah.
Maybe he might go, you know what? I actually need a restart. A complete
Look at
restart.
you, Tim. Look at you, like giving us some off-season tidbits. Becoming a general manager of sorts. Vian to the Dolphins.
I tell you what,
that'd be something.
No,
it'd make them. It would really make them into something. If he's available, because I'm assuming this version of Vian might go into the Proteas for full time.
And it would make me happy because then they would have to make sure that Jason Smith is only a batter. So I'd get a win-win situation. Vian does the bowling and the batting. Jason Smith gets promoted. Bats at number 4. Win-win for me.
Okay, that's a good thing. Okay, just one last thing before we go, Tim. What team were you most disappointed by in this SA20?
It's a difficult one, that, because I was disappointed by 2 teams. But I suppose because in our pre, I kind of said that the best team on the selection point of view, I'm going to have to go with Pretoria. Okay. And because they never actually changed things. They never actually tried things. At least with Cape Town, they did try a couple of things. The back end of the tournament, they gave Caber a chance. Pretoria just did nothing. They just said, this is our 11, and that's it. They never actually tried Paul Sterling. They never actually tried Matthew Boast. They never actually tried. There were several guys sitting on the sidelines, so they just didn't give a shot. They didn't change the batting orders. So for me, it's got to be Pretoria Capitals. I think it's and I know the recruitment there. The recruitment there is very, very good usually. So for whatever reason,
we walked out of the we walked out of the auction thinking these guys have it, right? They picked an unknown SA under 19 kid, and by them picking him, actually he ended up in the SA under 19 team. Werner, you are just like, I don't know how, but that one is, if you don't get a job as a scout or even as a full-time scout for this team, for this kid, Steve Stolk, I don't know, because it seemed like you were the only one who was talking about it. And I'd have loved to see him at this level, but yeah. So look, I think for me, the team that disappointed me the most was Paul Royals. I thought with the start that you had, you needed to go deep in the tournament. You needed to give yourself a chance. And as we sat here last week, we actually thought they'd get knocked out by the JSK because they got the wrong side of the momentum. Even though we had predicted that they wouldn't make the playoffs, they just lived up to, it was like they were Cinderella for like 4 hours. And then the moment the clock struck midnight, they just returned to their old selves. And so kind of give us a little bit of indication, but yeah, the other team obviously for me is JSK. I don't know what was going on. They caught fire at times. But at the end of the day, I think Martin has kept on emphasizing that they only won 3 games. And that was disappointing. And I think Reza for me is a big issue because I don't think he should get on the plane to the Caribbean and to the US, because if you're opening with Quinton and you want to take Britsky or Rickleton, I don't think there's room unless Reza's a cover for batter. But even then, Britsky and Rickleton aren't one man. They're 2 people. So one of those guys is going to be sitting on the sides, unless if Reza wants to bat down the order or you want to rejig that top 3 to kind of figure out. And I think there may be a spot for 2 of those 3 with the 3rd sitting on the bench as batting cover going to the World Cup. So it's going to be quite.
Rob's got headache, but a good headache. It's
Yes, he
not
does.
it's not easy picking at 15.
Look, the one
It really
thing that
isn't.
he's answered is the all-rounder question. Marco and Vian can fit
Yeah.
in the side. Then the
Yeah.
question is, you can take a spinner, one spinner, and then you can have a pacer. So either you can even go Kagiso, Keshav to Braze, and then you go Marco and what's and Vian, and that's a very strong bowling lineup, as well as a very strong batting lineup. Or you can go obviously one spinner and then you go Kagiso and Gerald or Kagiso and Nandre. But the only other question, obviously, who's going to be the pacer that's going to partner, the quick who's going to partner KG. And if Marco's that guy for now, that's awesome. And obviously Bartman's going to be in the mix. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Lungi is there and what it looks like. But oh boy, do I wish one of those guys was in New Zealand right now. But anyway, that's another topic to talk about. But yeah, to close it out, well done to the Sunrisers. You know, I words can't describe how much of
You've
how
been
much that,
muted. Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
Never again.
Where did you last miss me?
You just the last 3 words or so.
Okay, cool. No, that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, look, Durban Super Giants close. We saw that momentum from last year, Tim. They built on that, and you can see the teams who I think have the 2 best cultures in the tournament. Durban with those hats, like what was going on? AD with the speech around, being friendly to everyone, talking to everyone, being respectful, being that type of a team, being that nice team, and well done on them winning the Spirit of Cricket Award. That's the type of stuff we want to see, and that's the type of stuff that actually wins you tournaments, and you can see that right now. The other teams do have their own cultures. Obviously, some didn't work out, injuries here and there, but it's kind of like one of those situations where I think now this time going into the auction, I do think a lot of the other teams that haven't won might actually want to go into the auction a lot more and see if they can't get some players from there that have performed either for DSG or Sunrisers, or even some of the other players that have adapted well, because this tournament is about adapting to the different types of wickets and being able to play on all 6 types of wickets rather than just 2 or 3. The Highveld teams got found out. The teams in the Western Cape got found out, but it was funny enough, the teams on the other side of the coast, on the East Coast, that actually ended up winning. Tim, do you have any final words about the SA20 and maybe what you want to see in Division 3?
Okay, so just what I want to add is what is the word? The starting legacy of SA20 has already started. Supersport Park are offering money if you catch the ball during the T20 challenge, which is happening in March. They are already offering that. So that whole
15,000 rand a catch, a clean catch.
Yes, but the point I'm making is it wasn't there before. We didn't have it. We didn't have it. So that for me is huge. I mean, it's a fraction of the price, but the point is it's there, it's available. It's the idea is to attract people. I just hope it works. That's all I want to say. I hope it works. I
think they're going to be in for a very large bill, by the way.
Good.
Largely because the most catches in this Betway Catch a Million happened at Supersport Park. I think that's 3 out of the 8.
It's one catch, one person per game.
Okay.
One person.
Even then,
so you can have 5 or 6 guys tackling each other for that 1 6.
Okay, so we might end up being in some sort of weird situation happening where guys are like, "No, it can't be you. It must be me." But that's going to be quite interesting. Yeah.
The other thing is what I wanted to say. I get Nikhil's point. Nikhil, from a production point of view, is nailed it on perfectly. I'm still a fan of double headers, especially if we are going to expand, which I seriously hope we are not. Shorter formats work. Expansions. Let's look at the IPBL. They expanded. They lost people. I just hope that we do not expand. And that's my only concern. Keep it as it is. Have a couple of more double headers, I think would be the cherry on the top. Otherwise, for me, it's a 9.5 out of 10 for season 2. Been excellent. Really enjoyed it.
9.5 out of 10 from Tim. You enjoyed this tournament. Okay. I don't know if you can top it, but yeah, I think this was better than last year. Way, way better than last year. And that 9.5 makes sense. There needs to be room for growth. This is why you can't get a full 10 out of 10, but you'll get a massive, massive 9.5 from me. And obviously, there's the sour taste of the lack of the compromise with the New Zealand series and everything else from my end. But damn, what a production. What a show. And the great thing is this time the players actually stepped up. Ryan Rickleton, Heinrich Klaassen, Aiden Markram, Tom Abel. Last year I was sitting there going, who's this Tom Abel? Tristan Stubbs, by the way, you're no longer a thief of 9 million but from last year when you did nothing. So I will retract my statement from last season and be like, you really stepped up this year so much. Marco Janssen. Donovan Ferreira, we saw you in a little bit of highlights. We might need to see a little bit more of you next year. So too, Devil Brevis. Rassie van der Dissen actually also put up a really good CV to go to the World Cup. So well done to him.
In a striking team, absolutely.
Yes. Yes, as an opener as well. So that's another headache for Rob. Look, if I wouldn't be envious to be Rob right now because quite frankly, I don't know what the starting line is going to look like, but I do know that middle order of Markram, Miller, Klaassen. Ooh.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes. with Vian Mulder being slotted in wherever he needs to be slotted in to kind of give Miller and Klaassen a little bit more time to wait and have that explosion. You have something there. You have really have something there. As a Proteas. And I know with Proteas we don't want to get our hopes up because the hope that kills, but as I stand here today on the 12th of February 2024, I see no reason why not. There is no reason why not. This can't be our first ICC trophy. Honestly, honest to God. And quite frankly, if we win this, we'll say it was SA20.
Yeah,
it's all it is. But
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and you just look at the performances. Season 1, South African batters in particular, bowlers batters in particular struggled. Season 2, the batters blew out the water. There's the Tristan Stubbs, the Ryan Rickleton, the all the guys, Aiden Markram, all the guys. They came up there and then knocked the door down. That is
tough
huge.
with some of those innings is there at the back end. We can't leave him out. We said he looked old, and then he came back the following week and he started giving us 50 after 50 after 50. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm excited. Graham Smith and Lerato Malekutu, Zondi, and the team at SA20, all of you, really great job done. You are the number one league in the country across all sports. You have surpassed everybody in the space of 2 short years, which kind of gives you a sense of what is possible. We're seeing how well Bafana are playing. We've seen how well the Springboks are playing. We've seen how well our netball team has played. You can recreate this in each of the other sports, and it'll be amazing. And maybe that's what SA20 could do. Just, bring out a company that actually does tournaments across different sports and does this whole marketing thing. That's a revenue generator. I wouldn't say no to that.
That's an interesting idea. As long as it's
but it is, right?
I'll be happy.
Yeah. Obviously SA20 is tied to SA cricket, right? But if you were Graham and were thinking about expansion, this franchise format works across all, and you already have the franchises in rugby. You just need that little marketing, and maybe even get some investors in, or some of the investors currently in the rugby teams to sponsor something like this to kind of convert the Currie Cup into something that's a little bit more exciting. But obviously every sport is different, but it's an idea. And quite frankly, with the backing that they have with SuperSport and all the other sponsors, it's not beyond the realm of impossibility. So yeah, Tim, let's end it there. We'll be back soon. This week the Proteas play in a test match We're hoping that they've learnt from the first game and that they can give us a much better showing. We just need to get something out of it. We are Burnley going to Liverpool. We don't want to get smacked 3-0. We most likely will get smacked 3-0. But if you come out with a draw 1-1 or something like that, it could go a long way to necessarily helping us in the World Test Championship. But we'll talk about that next week, and we might even have some interviews coming up this week because domestic cricket's also back. Jeffrey Toyana, your team, I have a really serious issue with because something happened over the weekend I'm not happy with. But the Mpumalanga team, congratulations on an incredible win. Outside of that,
the person we interviewed scored 200. So there we go.
Yeah, look, if you're a player and you're in desperate needs of form, runs, recognition to play for the Proteas, just hit us up. You never know. Cricket's a funny old game. Outside of that, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you to Nikhil, Uttamchandani, for joining us. That's your recap for SA20. We'll be back talking SA20 trades, mega auction throughout the year like we always do. And obviously, as the next year rolls up, we'll be back there. We'll be in the stadiums. We'll be trying to do different things as well. But outside of that, have a great day. And from myself and Tim, it's goodbye and la sale. Kakahiso.